Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Go ahead and grab a pen and a paper, not a piece of paper, not a sticky note, but a pad would be awesome. In fact, when you take these conferences and these webbies, it's always good to have a separate pad of paper that you can label as such, as opposed to a loose piece of paper floating around. But anyhow, that's it for now. We're going to jump in as soon as you're ready and get started. This is part 2 of how to save $200 to $1,000 every month or more by simply organizing yourself and your money so you'll have more of it. I'm Kathy Burns, and I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for joining me. During our last webinar, we talked about the fact that time is money. In fact, time is even more valuable than money. I also talked about how to find more money in your environment and how to embrace change. You know, change happens every day, day in and day out. And the better you have the ability to embrace it, the better you'll be throughout the course of your life, because change happens and you might as well go with the flow, right? We also talked about the 80-20 rule. In other words, only 20% of your efforts are really workable. 80% of the stuff you do really doesn't have much effect on yourself or your environment. The old 80-20 rule really works for everything. You know, 80% of your money only buys you 20% of your happiness, and so on and so forth. And we also talked about creating exit strategies. If you don't have a way to get your clutter out of your life and your excess time and commitments out of your life and your excess obligations out of your life, you really aren't living life to the fullest. So we talked about a few exit strategies to get rid of your clutter and your excess. We also talked a lot about how to deal with your mail, because mail is one of the most constant pieces of clutter in people's lives that I find. After being an organizer for 16 years in the field, mail is it. You know, come rain, snow, sleet, or hail, the mailman comes 6 days a week. Thank goodness he doesn't come 5. I heard they were talking about getting rid of Saturday's mail, but it hasn't happened. So you have 6 days a week of stuff coming into your life without you even asking for it half the time. So you learn strategies on how to deal with that. If that still is a challenge for you, I welcome you to go back and listen to webinar 1 again, the first part of this Webby, and you'll learn a lot about that. Also, the magic of piles. Oh, piles are magical mystery things. If you have 2 things on top of each other, I guarantee you, and you leave the room, I guarantee you come back, there will be more. Piles are magical. So you want to never have 2 things on top of each other. That's why us as professional organizers are always saying, don't put things on top of each other, keep things vertical, because we know the magic of piles. I also talked to you about how to keep track of your receipts. You know, receipts, whether they're for taxes or for things you might want to exchange or just for a bunch of nothing that's cluttering up your purse or your wallet, really doesn't make any sense at all. So you want to be able to track them, put them where they need to go, and get rid of the stuff that does not matter, like i.e. your grocery receipts for one. Unless, of course, it's a tax expense. Also discussed about how to reduce your stress. You know, throughout this whole webinar, it's really about giving you strategies so you are less stressed. So there is less stuff falling through the cracks for you. And again, how to pay less taxes by keeping track of your receipts for one. So if you missed any of that, please go back and check out Webby 1. I think you'll really enjoy it. And you know, you can listen to this anytime you want since you've paid and you're here. So feel free to just jump right in and see the other recording. Okay, back to this. I do have a Home Organizing Made Simple course. I have an online program that has compiled all of my expertise for the past 16 years in how to organize every nook and cranny within your house. And at the end of this web, you'll have a chance to enroll in it with a little bit of a discount. So stay tuned for that. Okay. You will always save money and make more money through being organized. Being organized always pays. And I'm going to show you a few reasons why. Well, I bet some of you might have taken some action last week. Did anybody find any money? Aha, I see some of you have found a little bit of money. What did you find? Ah, gift card. Well, that's really common. Gift cards are so common. I bet if you did any bit of organizing, you also find little bit of loose change. As I said last week, the most money I've ever found is around $8,000 for a client, but I've found so much money over the years. So you will get paid to get organized. Absolutely. If it's not just in money or gift cards, it'll be in other things. So as promised this week, you're going to learn how to create a budget. I'm going to give you a lot of ideas on how to create a budget. And then really the method to maintain it and make it realistic for yourself. That will allow you to save money. It will also show you how to eliminate the debt, and I'm going to show you a few strategies for that. How to track your expenses so that you really know where your money's going, and how to stop wasting money buying duplicate items because you can't find them, and that leads right into creating homes with a yard around them. You're going to learn all this, so stay tuned and let's keep going. Okay, how do you track your expenses? Well, you know, most of my people don't really track their expenses. Does anybody out there really track their expenses right now? Well, this is a client and she's very smart. Oh, she's so established in her industry of what she does. And I want to show you a little bit about what she says.
I met Kathy through a mutual friend, and the first thing she did was sit down and help me organize my finances, which is something I knew was in dire need of organizing. And while, I'm educated and could technically think through all of these things, it just seems so daunting. And so it really helped to have her walk me through the process of, seeing exactly what was coming in, what was coming out, setting up a budget, how to keep track of things, seeing where I was being charged for things that I wasn't aware of. That's already helped me save a lot of money. And so that was the first thing that she really helped me with.
I helped her with a lot of different things, but the budget I think was really first and foremost for her because she didn't really feel very powerful. She wasn't able to save money because she didn't really know where her money was going. So now that she has a budget, she can save money. She automated her bill pay, which I thought was really good because she has a consistent paycheck coming in week after week, so we can automate everything. Now she'll spend a lot less time dealing with bills. She no longer worries or stays up at night. She used to have sleepless nights worrying about what fell through the cracks because she really didn't have a good game plan, and she's much more powerful, and I'm so proud of her. She really took a big step of creating a budget. The same thing can happen with you when you create a budget that's sound and solid. You'll feel more empowered, you'll spend a lot less time worrying, and you can even save a lot of time by doing some automation. So how can you stop losing sleep and how can you stop losing money over late fees? Well, there's a bunch of different ways. First off, chaos in your money management can eat up to 15 to 20% of your budget. 15 to 20%, back to the old 80-20 rule, right? So you have late fees, perhaps you have overdraft charges, perhaps you have excess penalties, or your interest rates have gone up because you have missed a few payments because you've not been aware of what's due when. So you don't want to have any chaos. You want to actually have it streamlined, and that's why we're here, right? So when you have systems put into place, you'll avoid the accounts closed, being past due, having things turned off on yourself. It's all about systems. Systems give you power, and systems help you get your life in order. I'll tell you a story about myself. I had some bill challenges back in the days because I wasn't able to track my bills or know how quickly they were paid. It always came down to as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, I didn't have consistent money coming in. If any of you out there are entrepreneurs, oh yeah, I see someone smiling. You know that things cycle. They go up and down, and your cash flow is never really consistent. It could be good, but it's not consistent. So because of that, I couldn't go into auto pay, but I still had to somehow track my expenses. And I spent a lot of time, oh, I wonder if I paid that, I do have the benefits of a short memory. And, it took me a lot of time just to figure out if things were paid or not paid. So I came up with this strategy. I actually had a checklist, and actually I still do. This started out just as a physical checklist where I would write the name of the bill, when it was due, how much was due, and then I would literally check the boxes as I paid it. Being an author, writer, speaker, I love the tactile rewards of checking the check mark. So I still have a piece of paper checklist. Now I've progressed into having this, obviously it's on my computer. And quite honestly, sometimes I check it on the computer, but more often than not, I'll just pull up the piece of paper and check mark it because it just feels so good to say, oh, paid. On the notes section, I could also put, hey, 0% financing ends on this day. I need to have it paid off. I could just put any kind of little notes that I need. But this actually is a real easy way to know right at a glance if your bills are paid or not, right? And that's how I personally avoided late fees and actually safeguarded my credit. Now, there's a lot of other ways, and we're going to go into that. Obviously, you can save a lot of time by paying bills and going online. Now, the one thing that I want to say about this online stuff is if you decide that you're going to pay bills online, pay it from your main account. In other words, I set up bill pay from my Chase account. I have all the bills, when they're due, when they're paid, if it's auto, not auto, how much, so on and so forth. And at the beginning, I hadn't really thought through that. And I was paying, take for instance, San Diego Gas and Electric from that portal. But then guess what? I couldn't just go on in a glance and see if it was paid that month without going back to SDG&E. It's always good to have all your stuff in one place. So now all of my bills are paid only from my Chase account, and I can actually see immediately if it's been paid, when it's going to get paid, how much was paid, all in one login. That saves a boatload of time, gang. So if you're going to do online bill pay, pay it from one portal, in other words, and the best portal is your online bank. Or an outside credit card. Outside credit cards are awesome because if everything's on one credit card, which I advised you to do last week just to see what you were spending, it'll be really easy to track what's been paid and what hasn't and how much. I don't know if any of you did that challenge last week by putting all your bills on one credit card or one debit card and seeing what you've spent, but that's a really good exercise to be very crystal clear about where your money's going. So if you do this, if you do the online bill pay, you're going to be really clear about what's been paid and what hasn't. You'll have a lot less stress. And in my opinion, you'll save a lot of time. And because, before this, I was jumping back and forth going, oh, was it paid? Was it not paid? Do I need to check it out? So on and so forth. And if you do the online bill pay that's automatic and you're able to do that, you'll have a lot less money spent on late fees and on overdrafts. Nothing will become a surprise. So it really pays to automate if at all possible. Okay, so you've automated, but how do you stop overspending? That's the big question. You want to create a budget and you want to track your spending habits, right? And that's hard. I mean, it does take some time to get into it. I highly recommend that you do it, even if it's just for a month to figure it out. And the easiest way back to that is to keep all your expenditures on one debit or one credit card. Even if you don't tally your spending habits, you can create a realistic budget just by having on one card all of your expenses for a month. You'll see really crystal what you're spending your money on. You're going to have some ideas about how to do online budgeting. And if you don't like using the paper like I do, you can consider the online budget tracker. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, so you've tracked your expenses, hopefully. How do you save money? Well, you know what? Only 17% of Americans say that saving money has been a financial priority. Isn't that crazy? So a lot of us want to open up credit and, do that kind of thing, but only 17% of us say that it's a priority to save money. And I think, it comes down to advertising, really. I mean, we're programmed to spend more than we earn, but advertising works. It is a gold standard thing that's going on with us. The more you're on air and the more that you watch TV and the more that you listen to the radio, the more you read papers, we're just blitzed full time about buy this, the new widget, so on and so forth. And oftentimes we get so carried away that we spend the money before it even goes into savings, sometimes even before we have it, i.e. the credit card debt, right? So be careful, and you really have to focus on saying, I do want to save money in this lifetime. An easy way to do it is to pay yourself first. Open up a savings account or an IRA that auto deducts from your bank account. Now, I found over the years that a weekly small deduction is much easier than a larger monthly deduction. That's only because as an entrepreneur, my money ebbs and flows, right? If you get a consistent paycheck, I highly recommend that you take it out before it even hits your bank. You can set that up. If you don't want to do it that way, then as soon as it hits your bank, make sure that you auto deduct it on, if you have a consistent, say you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, make sure that on the 2nd and the 16th, money is gone right away into your IRA or your savings account automatically. Pay yourself first, right? It always pays to pay yourself first. That way you can actually save money. Auto drafting your savings. I talked about that. You can automatically deduct your money on the same day of each month or a couple of days each month or the same day each week, whatever really works for you, but have auto draft set up and so that you can auto draft things right into different accounts. Maybe you want to have a Christmas savings account. That's the one thing that I learned when I was younger. My mom had me save for Christmas because it was so important to her. Although I didn't really learn much about budgeting or saving other than that, at least that was something, right? You could save for a car fund and not have to actually have your car have a loan on a car. You could also absolutely need to save for retirement. But if you auto drafted, it makes saving a lot simpler. Ally, I don't know if you guys have heard of Ally. It's an online banking, an online bank basically. And they've just come up with this new thing called buckets. And they let you create up to 10 buckets in one account. So say you want to go back and you want to do a Christmas savings, you want to do a car fund, you want to save for retirement. Well, guess what? You can have up to 10 of these buckets right in one account that will allow you to divvy up your money. I think it's brilliant. They just rolled this out. Now, the reason that I think I talked last week about the envelope method, it's kind of very similar to that where you're putting a single envelope for each of your expenses. Well, this is putting a single little account or a little subfolder within Ally for each of the different things that you want to save for. You can divvy your cash into it. So the buckets thing is really cool, and I really like it, and it's a digital solution with Ally. Now, a good reason why to use a digital bank is because it's kind of less easy to honey dip into it. So if you have a savings account that's hooked up with your regular checking account or other things, it's really easy to delve into it. But if you have a virtual savings account, especially if it doesn't have a debit card attached, it makes it much easier to save as you go. And now with Ally, you can put these little savings your savings accounts into a bunch of different little things. So it'll give you your financial freedom. You can watch your retirement account grow. You can watch your vacation account grow. You can save for a car. You can just divvy up the savings into a bunch of little different envelopes and pockets. I think it's pretty cool. If you're interested, check it out. It's ally.com. I have an account there and I really enjoy it. Okay, so how do you create a budget? This is the biggie, right? Well, the big challenge is, what method am I going to use? And what program should I use for this? And then once I figure that out, the biggest challenge is actually using it and following up with it and actually implementing it into your life, right? So the definition of a budget is an estimation of your income and expenses over a specified period of time. And then you compile it and reevaluate it on a regular basis, right? So that was the hard problem for me. I always felt like I couldn't do a budget because I couldn't have an estimation of my income and expenses over a month, right? Or even over a week because things ebb and flow as an entrepreneur. Well, after I finally really thought about it, I could actually do a budget based on annual income and do it that way. I might be a little bit slow learner, but I finally figured that out. And so I can actually create a budget based on annual income, earnings, and expenses. So budgeting software there's a bunch of it out there. I'm going to describe a little bit of it and then you can pick and choose. Who out there is doing any type of software for their budget? Is there anybody out there doing it? Oh, good. What program? Mint. Okay, yeah, I'm going to talk about Mint here in a little bit. Okay, so the best software is going to be organized. It's going to provide you the detail that you want and require the information that you need. It's also going to allow you to make a quick analysis of what's happening with your budget, with your life. Now you can be online, or you could also be not online like I discussed earlier. Here's one that's new to me that really is an online, offline kind of thing. It's actually online, but it follows the envelope system where you putting cash into different envelopes. So it's called envelopes. And I think it's kind of cute, but it has envelopes that's labeled for each individual bill. So when you can put your paycheck into it, split it into your different envelopes and see where your money goes, you know. So say you think that you're going to have maybe $100 in water bill each month, you can put the $100 in there and it really allows you to track it. It also allows you to link your bank and credit card accounts so you can see past spending and then assign the money to future envelopes. And it also has a way to move money out of each spending envelope into a credit card payment envelope or whatever. The basic costs $6 a month, and it's kind of a cool thing. You might want to check that out if that has any appeal to you. The next thing is Mint, which someone out there said they use Mint. Mint is really good if you're not an entrepreneur and you don't need a P&L. It does online budgeting. It's really simple to use. It allows you to track expenses across various credit cards, bank accounts, investment accounts. It will pull all that information in for you into one little portal, and then you can see where you're at. You can also set up alerts to inform you if you're overspending. It's kind of cute. I played with it for a little while. You know, I set up an account for groceries just to kind of track what I was doing with groceries, and then it would do an alarm to my inbox saying, hey, you know, you're $25 over your grocery allowance for this week. So it's kind of cool that way. And it will also remind you when your bills are due. And it's a real simple overview of your financial health. So if you're not doing entrepreneurial stuff and you're just, you know, an employee, Mint's pretty cool. It allows you to track all that stuff. Now, Quicken is a more popular version of Mint. It's more robust. It's actually installed on your computer as a program, and it allows you to create and follow a budget, track your spending. Why I like Quicken, it automatically categorizes your expenses. So once you have SDG&E in there and you call it a utility or you call it electric, whatever you want to call it, it will automatically categorize that from then on. And it automatically imports your bank transactions and the bills that you pay and all that good stuff. So there's a lot less work with Quicken. And you get the starter edition for $34.99. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, the one thing that I don't like about Quicken, I always recommend QuickBooks, is you don't get a real good profit and loss or balance sheet. So no P&L and balance sheet, you can't really delve in as much as you can with QuickBooks. So I highly recommend QuickBooks, but I'm not really going to talk that much about it, because you're probably not that many entrepreneurs out there. But if you are, check out QuickBooks as opposed to Quicken. But those are just 3 ideas of budgeting software that you can use, or budgeting ideas, so that you can create that budget. So once you've created a budget, you might have a little bit of debt happening and hanging out, and there's various ways to eliminate your debt and get organized in, you know, easily, well, easily if you have a lot of money, but at least there are strategies to eliminate your debt. And I'm going to go into the two most popular and then a hybrid. So I don't know if you guys heard of avalanche or snowball method. You need to commit to one of the two or a hybrid so that you can pay off your debt. So choose your strategy, choose it wisely, and I'll explain what each of them are. David Ramsey said that, you know, what he knows is, we're back to the 80-20, 20% of personal finance is your head knowledge and 80% is your behavior. So this is your caveat, right? So if you decide that you're going to delve into eliminating your debt, 20% is only about how you're going to do it. 80% is actually implementing it and the behavior according and around it. Okay, the avalanche method. This allows you to, what you do is you make minimum payments on all your debt. And then you use any remaining money to pay off the debt with the highest interest rate. So basically you're chipping off the tip of the iceberg that has the most debt in as much as you can. You're paying minimums on all the rest of it, and then you're paying that the extra money on the biggest, highest interest rate. So you can allocate enough money to make the minimum payments on each source of debt and devote the remaining to the debt with the highest interest rate. That's called the avalanche method. Now, there's goods and bads to it. Avalanche allows you to save the most money in interest, obviously, because you're paying the high interest rate off first. It also is a type of accelerated debt repayment plan for yourself. But it does take discipline and commitment. So, you know, you have, that can be a clear disadvantage if you're not really disciplined, because you can't just pay minimums on everything. You have to pay a lot more on the highest interest in order for it to work. So it does take discipline. It also requires more capital. David Ramsey said, you know, if you're going to do the avalanche method, you want to make sure that you have money stuffed away for, you know, the 2 to 3 months worth of expenses plus your daily living, so that you have money for emergencies, so that the avalanche doesn't avalanche upon you. And in case you're not actually working it, you want to have a little bit of extra money in the kitty for it. So that could be a disadvantage of the avalanche. Now, the snowball method involves paying off the smallest debts first. And it kind of is more gratifying. You know, Dave Ramsey is the one who claims that momentum, not math, is the way to eliminate it. So with the snowball method, you're actually knocking off the smallest debts first. The advantages and disadvantages are, well, the big advantage is it gives you a lot of motivation, because if you knock off a debt and you're free and clear on one of your cards or one of your debtors, you are feeling really good. So you see instant progress, and that makes you feel really good. It also enables you to pay off your debt completely in a couple months if you're just banging away at it. It's more than a method of paying off bills. It's more of a mindset of, we're going to chip away and start with the smallest and go to the tallest. It's designed to help you change how you behave with money. Basically, if you're chipping away the small one, you will never want to get a small one again, right? So again, it goes back to that mindset thing of the snowball method. I think that's why Dave Ramsey likes it the most, is, you know, it gives you instant gratification. Now, you can actually use a combination of these. You could also do the avalanche or the snowball, okay? You could do the snowball, you could do the avalanche, and add on to it by putting a little bit of money away in savings. In fact, someone, my mentor, had suggested that he did a combination of snowball, or he did a combination of avalanche by also putting some money into savings. I think he actually did snowball, and then he put money into savings as well. So it made him feel good, and then made him feel better, because he was not only seeing progress, he was actually watching an account grow. That gave him a little bit more, just made him feel better, right? So you can do combinations of this. It's just a matter of what really suits you. But if you have debt, you need to use one of these methods to get yourself out of it, or a combination. Okay, one way to get out of debt and to curb your costs is to just see what's recurring. As my client said in the beginning, she had no idea some of the payments that were automatically paid. She didn't even know what they were. So you want to take a good hard look at what are your recurring charges. YouTube Red, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, any of these that just come automatically out of your banking. Do you know what they are? Do you use them? If you use them, fine. If you buy enough on Amazon to pay for the Prime, absolutely. But if you have a subscription to Netflix and you never watch it, it might be something you might want to eliminate, and that allows you to curb a little of your expenses, right? So, magazines, what do you really have time to read? This is a recurring expense. Oftentimes, you'll get the offer on the credit cards. Hey, you have this many credits of frequent flyers. Don't you want some free magazines? And you're like, sure. And then you get the magazines, and then next year they automatically bill you. I don't know if you knew that. But the main thing about a pile of magazines, and we talked last time about piles versus vertical. Number one, this little pile right here, see it? Very dangerous. It'll topple over and could trip you up. But it's very dangerous in another way, in the fact that you're looking at that pile and you're feeling guilty, maybe even sad, because you really had full intentions to read these magazines, but you simply ran out of time. And you look at the pile or you look at the stack and you're like, oh, I wish I had more time. You feel like you have less freedom. You can't really do what you want to do, because let's face it, when you bought the Real Simple magazine, your intention, and you subscribed to it, your intention was to really delve into it and read it. And by it just sitting there, which happens with a lot of clutter, it puts you into guilt. It makes you feel less free, and guilt, and perhaps even shame that you can't keep up with the things that you set your intention to keep up with, right? So a solution for all of this, and this includes clutter, my gang, is to eliminate all of your magazine video subscriptions. Get real and take notice of which magazines you're actually having time to read, or even still care about reading, or do you use the service? If you use the service, keep it, more power to you. If you don't use the service, get rid of the recurring bills. And I want to go into family finances a little bit. I work with a lot of women, and what I found is the biggest challenge is that they really don't have a knowledge of all the accounts that are happening in their life. Out of sight, out of mind, maybe the husband or their partner takes care of it, and they don't really know that much about it. But what happens is something disastrous happens if they're left alone and try to figure it out. Perhaps their partner has struck ill, perhaps even worse, they've lost their partner. Where are they at? A lot of them that call on me, they have no idea where they're at, actually. They don't know anything about their finances. So get a handle on your finances. And if you have a partner or you have a spouse, I highly recommend that you work together on your expenses and your budget. Combine your money, okay? Combine your money into one account, and make sure that all your expenses are paid from that one joint account. Now, you can have separate accounts for spending money and fund money, but by combining your paychecks and putting your banks all into one, it really gives you more power. And it also, it does a lot of things, but I can't recommend it highly enough to combine and merge a bank, at least create one bank account where most of your money as a couple goes into it. And it will help you in many, many ways. It'll help you in saving for a vacation. It'll begin to help you invest as a team. It's hugely powerful for both of you to be involved with your accounts, not just one of you. Because the end result is you'll have more communication. There won't be arguments over where did the money go? Why did we not save it? Why are we spending so much on such and such a thing, right? There's a lot less arguments over expenditures, and each partner is empowered and able to help take over the family finances if they're needed. It is a partnership. Being in any type of relationship and living together, if you cohabitate in any form, I highly recommend that you have a joint account that handles expenses. Even if you're just two college girls living together or two people living together, have one joint account that all your expenses are paid from, and it's going to alleviate a lot of hassle in the future, and it's going to just be less argumentative, and you'll be more empowered. So that's all I have to say about that. End result is better communication, less conflict. You're more aware of where money's going. You can start saving, and bare minimum, you'll be aware of the money you have and the money you spend. And that's really, really important for organizing your finances, right? And happy partners are really what you want anyhow. So have you heard about creating a home with a yard around it? Have you heard this phrase? Do you have any idea what it means? Well, as organizers, we love this phrase, and I'll tell you why. Number one, what's a home? Well, you have to have a home, which is a designated place for every single item in your life to live, right? It has to live in a home. If your things have a home, you can actually find what you want when you want it. Step one, create a home. Step two, add a yard around the home. What does this mean? A yard is space around the area. And we have to have a yard because guess what? Life happens. As consumers, we always get more. If you don't have a yard around each home, your organizing system will break down. This is the most rookie novice thing that I see, and this is why most people cannot get organized on their own, is they create a home, but it's jammed to the brim, like this one right here. Here's a home without a yard. Okay, so here's a box of batteries. It's overflowing. These are batteries that are still usable. But what happens when you want to find a D battery in all this junk? Well, you can't really find it. Things fall out, and you can't. It's just no way to find what you need without probably dumping the whole thing upside down. There is no yard. Things have already fallen out, as you can see. The yard is cluttered. So there's no yard that's free and clear. This is an example of a great home with a great yard, okay? Everything has its place. Oh, I can find the D batteries. I can find the C battery. Oh, there's the AAAs. Guess what? I have room to grow. So if someone brings home a 12-pack from Costco of more batteries, I actually have a place to put it. And how often does that happen to you, right? You're all organized, and then someone comes in with a Costco giant bag of something, and then boom, your thing is broken down. So you need a home, you need a yard around it. This is basic organizing 101 that most people don't know. If you're going to create a home, absolutely create a yard. You need this because we have over 300,000 possessions in each home. This is normal. And if you're above average, you might have more. So if you don't have a home with a yard around each of the items in your house or each of the categories in your house, your possessions will possess you, and you will lose sleep, and you will waste a lot of money trying to find what you know that you own, but you cannot find. So if you have a yard around your home, you'll stop searching for things you own. You'll stop wasting money buying duplicates of things that you own but you can't find. And you'll stop running late for appointments, and you'll stop missing important events. I have this camcorder here to remind you, or to remind myself actually, of a quick little story of a client. I helped her organize her house. She was a very great mom, and they both had home-based businesses, and they had a couple kids. And when I organized her, she started jumping up and down because guess what? We found the camcorder. This is way back in the day, right? I'm dating myself. This is the beginning of my career before we all had video on our phones. She was so excited because she had missed a really important event, i.e. her child walking, because she could not find the camcorder. And then she said that, you know, even if I found the camcorder, oh, I realized it didn't have any batteries. And before you came around, I didn't even know where the batteries are or if it was charged. So you don't want to miss important events of your life simply because you can't find things. Obviously, we all have phones with camcorders in them right now. That's not an issue, but you can miss important events if you're scrambling out the door. Last week, I talked about my client who almost missed the appointment to sell her car because she could not find the title, and she had an appointment at the DMV to meet the guy who was buying the car, and they were going to sign over the title. She couldn't find the daggone title. She was 2 hours late, and it caused all sorts of mayhem. She did end up selling the car to the guy, but her brother berated her, who was giving her the ride, you know, to pick her up afterwards, and she was late for work, and it was just strictly embarrassing, all because she couldn't find the title because she wasn't organized. There's so many ways that things fall through the cracks in your life if you're disorganized, and that was just a couple of them that I've witnessed. I've witnessed them over and over. So remember, time's money, right? Money's more valuable. Money's less valuable than time. Time is the most valuable commodity in your life because it is a finite resource. So the more you can protect your time and stop wasting it searching for lost stuff, the happier you're going to be and the more fulfilled and the more stuff you're going to get done. That's why I always say organizing creates freedom. The more organized you are, the more free time you have. And that's the most important thing in life, right? Is having fun and having free time. Speaking of that, let's talk about your desk, or let's talk about the $1 million real estate. Now, even if you're not a sole proprietor, employee, you know, whatever, we all need a place to pay our bills. We all need a bill pay station and a place to really kind of keep ourselves organized. So here's a desk, and my question is, what's in your $1 million real estate? The $1 million real estate here is all the area around this desk that the person can reach without having to get up. That's the $1 million real estate. These drawers right here are really, really super $1 million real estate. What you don't want in those drawers is this. I can't tell you how many corporate environments I go into, and their $1 million real estate is full of snacks. That is not necessarily serving them at all, because what they really need are their tools at arm's reach. So you want to have back to tools at arm's reach. Boy, I should have written this, huh? So you want to not have to get up and find something if you're sitting down to actually do work at your desk, even if that's just paying bills or maybe working on estimates for a roof repair, whatever it happens to be in your life. You don't want to waste time by getting up. The average corporate person who gets out of their desk, the studies show that they're gone about 7.5 minutes. So, you know, it's very important that the room, the space, that their space is optimized and organized for productivity. But boy, it gets even worse when you're home. Guess how long you're gone if you have to get up and get something that you need to complete your bill pay or to complete the project from your desk work area. Guess how long? Anybody? 7, no, 10, 15 minutes, gang. You're gone 15 minutes, because guess what? You might have to pet the dog. You might have to stop by the fridge to get a drink, whatever. You're gone for 15 minutes. So if you're on a time crunch and you're trying to pay bills and run out the door, the last thing you want to do is have to get up and try to find the stamps, because the stamps aren't all within arm's reach. Just one example. So your $1 million real estate should have all the tools that you need to get your job done right then and there. Everybody needs a set little workstation to do this type of thing in your life, because we all have this type of stuff. And from last webinar, you remember the $1 million real estate is going to be right here. You're going to have your vertical action papers right there by your computer, so you can find them very quickly. Not snacks, tools. If you have to have snacks, I took this last week, I had to. So this is my client, and you see his snack drawer was his file drawer to the left of his up his desk, and I made him put it up. And then when I came back the following week, he was all excited because he had bought himself some Lazy Susans. This cabinet was really kind of dead space because it was on a corner and it was really, really deep. And so he bought himself giant Lazy Susans to roll around his snacks, which I thought was just hilarious. So he was all proud. And now his snacks, now his files are actually in his file drawer, which is awesome. And his snacks are above. So he at least has to stand up, right, to get his snacks, which is fine. But he has a lot of snacks, doesn't he? And then on the top here, we have all of his electronics bagged up into different variations of, you know, cords and that kind of stuff. So he has to grab a cord. It's all right there, way up high and deep in the hole. But he's so proud of his Lazy Susans. Just thought you might get a kick out of that one. Okay, let's talk about papers. Like my client, you know, he didn't have any files. He had snacks instead of files. And so let's talk a little bit about how and where your papers are going to live. So do your papers live in stacks? Okay, do you have a designated place for your papers to live within your home? Well, you know, we talked about this last week, your papers in action, you want to keep them vertical. You also really need a well-designed filing system, and a well-designed filing system doesn't have to look as beautiful as this one. It just has to allow you to find documents within 30 to 60 seconds. Again, we don't want to waste time trying to find papers. It takes a lot of time to find paperwork. Like my client with the title, it took her over 2 hours to find the title to her car. And in order to do that, you need a proper filing cabinet. You don't want a pretty basket with a lid, because guess what? I've got a hazard sign right there, because this is what happens. You have the basket, you have some files, see there's some files there, but then there's all this stuff on top. So we have a barrier to entry here to file. Well, guess what? If you have a real file cabinet, there's no longer a barrier to filing. And you want to make sure that you have a file cabinet that has good glides, that opens and shuts properly. I've had a few clients where they can open the drawer, but then it proceeds to fall out on their feet, or other ones that they cannot open their drawer, or other ones where the drawer is just stuck open all the time, and that's hazardous as well. I busted my shin on one of them actually. So you want a proper filing cabinet. Now, I really like laterals, and this is an example of a lateral file cabinet. So basically you have 4 drawers in this space. There's a couple reasons I really like it. Number one, it's less ugly than the tall 4-drawer file cabinet. But most importantly, it's the same level as your desk. And guess what that lets you do? It lets you put your printer off of your desk and out of your $1 million real estate, but still close by and by you. And I just really like the lateral. You know, a filing cabinet is an investment piece, and you really want to spend the money getting a good file cabinet, one that has good glides, one that opens and shuts, one that you like how it looks, because if you do invest in this, you'll have it for life. You'll use it for the rest of your life, I guarantee you, unless you change styles or whatever. But it won't fall apart, and it will serve you for many, many years to come. So if you don't have a proper filing cabinet, go ahead and get one. Please also make sure that you use hanging folders within your file cabinet. You see how we have hanging folders here in this drawer? Very super important, because if you don't have hanging folders and they're not hanging up and you're using manelas, you'll open up your drawer and everything will be slid under and piled as opposed to filed. So make sure you have rails. Now, if you want to need a new file system after this, you can check out Freedom Filer. As a disclaimer, I'm a Freedom Filer certified consultant. I actually train Freedom Filer professional organizers because it is such a great system. I have it on corporate environments. I have it in mom and pops. It works for everybody, completely customizable, and it works for everybody. And on top of that, it's the only self-rotating purging file system in the world that I've ever found. So it works really, really well. And if you're interested, you can check it out a bit later. But you want a file system that works for you. Now, you don't have to buy Freedom Filer. I'm going to show you exactly how you can put together a file system on your own without having to purchase anything. But the question is this: look around, and do you have files, or Do you have piles? If you have a pile, I guarantee you it's one of these three things. I talked about it last time. I'm going to talk about it again. A pile represents one of three things. You're either procrastinating on it because you know what to do, but you just don't want to do it. You're avoiding it. You're just walking away from it. Or you're indecisive. You have no idea what to do with it, right? So if you have a pile, it's one of those three things. As a paper flow specialist, I want each of you to have a designated place where your papers will land when they hit your life, which is last week's webinar, like where your paper is going to land, where is the mail going to hit, not your kitchen counter, where is it going to live while you need it? It needs to be able to easily access. Remember that 30 to 60 seconds. You need to find something if you're looking for it. And most importantly, it needs a place to leave. It needs an exit strategy. The majority of file systems, 80% will go in and never see the light of day again. So you don't want that type of thing. I'm going to teach you how to get your papers out of here and have a place to land and live. So you want a system that moves your paper in, but most importantly, out of your life. Oh, by the way, there is a discount code for Freedom Filer. If you're interested, you can grab it on this slide. Okay, so how do you make a file system thoughtfully? Well, you want to divide your papers up into these 6 categories. We already talked about the needing to take action papers, and those are the ones that are vertical. Skim back to last Webby if you need to know it again. There's permanent papers, there's policies or agreements, there's resource and reference, there's tax-related docs, and guess what? If it's not one of these first 5, what do you think it is? It's junk and or shred. I'll delve into the papers in action. It's the quick access that you need. There's generally 8 types of action. There's bills to pay, calls to make, data entry, upcoming events, waiting for response, current projects. Those are your typical papers in action. Almost everybody has those type of actions that they need to take with papers. And the most important thing is to keep them vertical. Again, there's a lot more detail in that in the last Webby. But let's talk about the other categories. Okay, permanent papers. What's really surprising, there's not that many papers that are permanent. The only things that are really permanent are education records, your birth certificates, genealogy, that's never going to change if you have it already, and medical test results. Really, that's the only thing that's really permanent in your life. And all, unless you use the old school filing method, where everything's permanent in your files, really in the Freedom Filer in this system and the one that you want to create, you only want to have these type of things in your permanent papers. The next category of papers that you will find in your life are policies. I consider them agreements with the world because agreements come and agreements go. And it's really a remove replace category. If you can train yourself to know that when you get the annual renewal for your health insurance or the new book, take for instance, you're going to toss it, put the new one in. You get your new auto insurance, you're going to toss it, you're going to put the new one in, so on and so forth. Even Social Security. Before I knew this, I kept all of my Social Security statements because, they're from Uncle Sam. I thought I had to keep them. But no, the old one means nothing. It's moot, it's null and void. You can shred it and put the new one in. So that's policies or agreements with the world. One of my clients that I had in Florida, I flew in to organize their papers, and we were going through the papers. There was a boatload of papers, and which is why I had to be there. But what I found was he had every insurance policy from the 50s on. It went 57, 58, 59, 60, 61. Literally, this is true. And then when the 70s came, there weren't any 70s policies. I don't know what happened in the 70s. And then it went 80, 81, 82, 83. I think I was there in like 2014. So we had that many years of insurance, auto insurance policies. That was a lot of paper. So once they realized that they had to keep only the most recent one, the one that was really in effect. That was hugely liberating. So think about your file drawers and think about how many years of auto insurance policies you have lurking around there. If you're on the average, from what I found, you probably have at least 3 years worth of old policies that mean nothing. So go ahead and clean out your file cabinet and start a policy and agreement section where you know that it's a remove, replace type of situation. Taxes and expenses. Okay, you need to get your tax receipts off your desk and out of your purse or your wallet, because guess what? When it comes time to actually putting together your tax return, if they're not filed, you're going to be in big trouble, and you probably will spend many, many, many hours trying to recreate your receipts and your expenses and what you can write off on your tax return. If they're not filed away properly, it's going to take you forever. And what you want to do is make sure to set up a system that goes odd year, even year, even if it's just tax expenses, tax receipts odd, tax receipts even. Do that, because what happens if you don't have the odd year, even year, your things will commingle, and then again, come April, you're in trouble. So look at it this way. This is odd year. Right now it's 2019. I don't know what year you're listening to this, but right now it's 2019. And so all of my receipts are going into my odd year tax receipts area. 2020 comes around, I'm still going to be getting some stuff from 2019, but I don't want it to commingle, because I want it to go into the odd year, in other words, because in 2020, I'll start collecting receipts for next year's tax return, but everything happens until April or March or February, whenever it is that I start doing my taxes. I want to make sure that I don't have any even year receipts or 2020 expenses put in with my odd years. I want them all to be separated out. And that way, when I go to file my taxes for 2019, and it's a couple months into 2019, they're all right there sitting pretty and pristine with no commingling happening. So when you set up your tax receipts system, make sure bare minimum that you have odd year, even year to keep them from commingling. It'll save you a lot of stress. Resource and reference. Let's get real, folks. How many times do you keep stuff that you think you're going to go back to? Like, oh, this is how to grow a rose. Well, guess what? When I'm getting ready to grow a rose, I can find it better, faster, quicker, later times 100,000 on Google, right? With the Google search. So really be careful on what you're saving as a reference and a resource. Can you find them better, faster, quicker, later when you really need them? Because most people who have reference and resources that I've worked with, they don't look at them anyhow. They go immediately to Google because it's so easy to find the information that you need. Now, there's a few things that you might not be able to find on the internet. Like, take for instance, I had my astrological chart read, and I have a nice little dissertation about it, and I have my DISC method read, and I have that. Those are things I can't really find online very quickly. So it's something that could be a reference or a resource, but you really have to get real with yourself, because the majority of the stuff that you're thinking you're saving to read later, you're not going to read, and you're going to find them much more up to date and current on Google. Thank goodness for the internet. It allows us to completely actually eliminate the reference and resource section. But if you have some, that's your tip. So these are ways that you can control your paper deluge. You can check it and determine if you need action. If you need action, you want to put it into that designated place to wait for the action so that you can handle it once and then find it when you want to work on it. If you don't need it, you want to get rid of it. You either want to toss it, you want to file it, or you want to forward it to whoever might concern. That's even the better thing. It all comes down to saving time and saving money. As we know, time is more valuable than money. And so you want to stop playing the game of trying to find things. Because if you can't find things when you need them, your life spirals, really. You feel like the rest of your life is completely out of control. Living in disorder can be overwhelming. It can be frustrating. Clutter can be a really big mental and physical drain. It can cause illness. It can cause fatigue. It can cause depression. You know how disease is dis-ease? It causes lack of ease in your life. So, I know it's difficult to get started, and you might be going, yeah, I know I need to get organized, but I have no idea how to get organized. I don't even know where to start. Most of my people say, I'm all overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. So if you would like a here's what you do next for every single area in your house, I do have a solution. I told you earlier I was going to be talking about it. So here we go. You can eliminate your clutter. You can create more freedom. And here's how. If you have a garage like this, specifically, you probably need the module about how to create more space in your garage. Get your car into the garage, because guess what? Cars are usually always, or actually not usually, they always are more valuable than the stuff that you have stuffed in your garage, and you're making your car sit out on the sidewalk, hopefully not the sidewalk, sitting in the driveway, gathering, all the inclement weather, and all this little perfect stuff in your garage really means nothing. It's not nearly as valuable. And you'll find that out if you actually clean out your garage one day. I'm doing one of those tomorrow. So you want an exit strategy. You want to create a consistent holding area for all the things that need to leave your zone, leave your home. And I talked to this a little bit about it, right? To have an area right by your door that for things that have to leave. And then when you find things that you no longer need, use, or love, you can put them there. If you've taken away anything from this, please create a drop zone and a donate zone for things you no longer use, need, or love. Your life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by change. You do have to embrace change and take the bull by the horns, so to speak, to create any type of lasting results in your life. You have to embrace change, and it doesn't happen by chance. Well, change happens by chance all the time, but if you don't create your own intentional change, things will happen to you. Here it is. This is the big drum roll. I have an online course called Home Organizing Made Simple. It's a compilation of my years and years and years in the field as a professional organizer. And if you're interested in getting your home organized from the front door to the back door, it's available for you today to purchase. I have videos that help you organize every single area in your home. It gives you directions, clear and specific, from your front door to your back door. And I give you these instructions in small action-sized portions so that you don't go into overwhelm. It allows you to gain control of your piles, your finances, and your home. If you're interested, it's there for you. I guarantee you'll save at least $100 a month in time and expenses and achieve a new feeling of having your life and your home organized. And it's only $19.95 a month, right? Less than a lot of other things in your life, and you'll get freedom, and you'll feel fulfilled, and you'll feel much more in control of your life. So, getting organized and taking control of your finances requires changing your habits. You're on your way. Congratulations, you guys. You're on your way because you've been joining me with this webinar. You're here. You're listening. You hopefully have paid attention, maybe not fallen asleep, but you're on your way to success just by simply ingesting and being part of this webinar. And I really appreciate it. This is a time that I can take specific questions for you and find out if you have any specific challenges. Now, some of you might not have really specific things that you want to know about right here and now. Some of you do. I see some people are writing in. How to get started. Yeah, that's the big one. How to get started. Or, how to get started is to simply start. I know that sounds contrite and that sounds kind of like a no-brainer, but start wherever you can, even if it's just your sock drawer. Sock drawers are actually kind of easy place to start. So delve into your sock drawer and start actually making pairs, seeing what you have in there. If your sock drawer is stuffed and you can't close it, then you can start eliminate the natty ones with the holes and the seams, or I'm sure there's a few in there that have lost their mates. So start wherever you can. And actually, as a place, speaking of mates, what I like to tell everybody is to create a missing sock bag. And if you have loosey-goosey socks, which happens to every single one of us, if you find a loose loaner, just throw it in the bag. And what you'll find at the end of a month, they will have reunited themselves really nicely in that bag. But wherever you can start, wherever you can, simply start. Start small so that you can feel that you've made progress, and you'll be more empowered to continue further on. Any other questions out there? You know, you can always email me at support@organizedandenergized.com. I see we have more, but I'm out of time. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and answer a few more questions online. And I want to let you go, though, to honor your time commitment. I really appreciate you have being here. You have been so amazing. There will be more net webinars coming up, and I'll keep you in the loop for that. If there's other webinars that you'd like to see, and you know, if there's other topics that you really want me to cover, feel free to reach out. And again, if you're really, really motivated and really serious about getting your home organized, Home Organizing Made Simple, my course is designed just for that. It will help you from the front door to the back door. Don't feel obligated at all to buy it, but if you are really serious about it, it will help you, I guarantee. And it does have a 60-day money-back guarantee too. So if you want to try it, check it out. And meanwhile, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate your attention and your time. And I wish you smooth sailing, getting purging, and enjoying your life with more freedom, because the more organized you are, the more time you have, and the happier everyone is going around you is going to be, and the happier you will be as well. Thank you. I'm going to sign out for now.